Hello and welcome back to part 3 of the IMG success stories with Dr. Faraz. This is the last part of Dr. Faraz's story. Now, if you haven't listened to part 1 and 2, I really have to stop you here and ask you to go back to part 1 and 2. You want to listen to how Dr. Faraz's IMG journey began and how it's still going. But he has some incredible tips in those parts. So please listen to that first. Now, Dr. Faraz is an IMG from India. He started this entire journey when he was a PGY2. He did an observership, he got a job, he did WBA, he got general registration, and then he got onto the Australian training program for psychiatry. It is truly amazing and did all that in 2.5 years. Now he's here in part 3 to provide some tips and advice that he did himself while working as a resident, things that help him improve as a doctor. Now, Dr. Faraz, can you tell me just some of the advice and tips you would provide to our listeners when they start working? And really, what worked for you?
So I basically just did what I was supposed to do. Turn up on time, do the things asked of me. Mind you, I got a fair bit of criticism because the registrar I was working with was...
She's tough.
She's tough, yeah. Tough. That's the nicest thing I can say about her.
Yeah, she's tough.
Yeah, and she would absolutely run me down every single day about the wrongs that I did. But the good thing was that she would come back at the end of the day and tell me, all right, so I know I've been harsh on you. I know I've told you what were all the wrongs you've done. Let's sit down and correct those.
See, that's the part I love because... and that's the part where you can forgive the harshness because all the others will just be harsh and not bother to try to help you improve.
Absolutely. And harshness was not something that really fazed me because I did my medicine back in India, and medicine back there is the practice of learning over there is it's pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Right? I call it learning by humiliation.
Yeah.
And that's how you basically went forward with your training over there. You got humiliated enough either absolutely suck at what you do, or you go home, you pick yourself up and you study harder.
Yeah.
So I basically just listened to her because she wouldn't tell me what I did was how to correct my mistakes and stuff. So I would go up to her at the end of the day when we were sitting, and she'd be like, okay, so we don't have any work to do. Is there something you want to ask me? And I'd be like, yes, I know I made this error. Could you please tell me what I can do? And listen, guys, let me tell you a bit about myself. I'm an extremely, extremely socially awkward human being. And I had to break that. I had to break those shackles about me.
I wouldn't see, because when I met you, which was a few months later, I wouldn't have believed that you were socially awkward at all.
Yes, because...
So you'd already broken it by the time I met you.
And it was hard because I did that during my observership. And when I met you, I was still within those... I met you in the 4 weeks that I was being evaluated.
Yeah.
Right. So I had to do it because when I started we'll tell a bit more during that podcast of the observership. But then basically, you snooze, you lose. It's literally like that. There's everybody else who's working as hard as you are, or maybe even harder, to get that position for next year or to be recognized. And these people don't even have to worry about not getting a job in Australia because most of these people are local graduates.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? So as an IMG, you've got to take that. And I think that the level of anxiety I used to have before going to work was so high, and I feel like sometimes it was crippling. And it makes me believe that if I have overcome it, then anyone else can.
Yeah.
And it's really not that hard. So that was how it was. I went above and beyond in those 4 weeks. I did all the work that was asked of me. I did the work that wasn't asked of me because I thought, well, doing something good for someone goes a very long way.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go unrecognized. So I'd help the other team out if I didn't have any other job. Even though I had no clue what I was doing, I'd just be like, hey, do you guys need any help with medication charts? Because I'm a little free at this time. So it's these little things that people around you start picking up on.
Yes.
So, and my registrar, she was like a hawk. Even if she wasn't in the room, somehow she always found out what's happening.
She's got a baby cam nearby.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then, And at the end of it all, I came up to her and I said, if I do get a job, they're thinking about putting me on a rotation of nights next term, and I've only ever done 2 after-hours shifts. I have no idea what to do. And she became so happy that I went up to her and asked for her expertise, because she liked interns and RMOs to be of a standard. She said that, you're doctors now, you're not medical students, so you should be knowing A, B and C, D when you're trying to look for any problem, or trying to fix a problem, or trying to fix an issue with the patient. So she sat down and went through all the basics with me. And I would recommend you to try and build that relationship with your registrar, because it goes a long way. Right? Some days you do a little bit of work that the registrar needs to do, help them out a little bit, and the next time something like this happens, they will help you.
Yeah.
Okay. And honest to God, I've made some mistakes. I've made some pretty horrendous mistakes, and she came in, stepped in and said, that's all right, you're new, that happens. Only and only because I never talked back to her, and I always took her advice on board. Because if she berated me today about, let's say, a patient list that was a little out of order, then I'd made sure that every single thing was absolutely tip top the next day. And she would actually go through it, like, as I said, like a hawk. And she'd look at me and she'd say, all right, so you fixed what I asked you to fix yesterday.
Yeah, she was noticing that you were making effort and having initiative, and that's all they want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Some of them are verbal about it. Some of them are very quiet about it.
A lot of them, Sasha and I talk about this all the time. Most of them are not verbal about it. They say it behind your back. What you got was someone who was upfront and wanted to see you change for the better. And that's actually quite rare.
No, absolutely. Because the way she was, everybody in the hospital was terrified of her.
I'm still scared of her.
Yes. And they still are. I mean, even now, she's absolutely terrifying. And yes. So I had a bit of a hard time with her. But I do not regret a single moment, because the things she taught me were absolutely golden, because I needed those in a term where I was all by myself with one other intern who was brand new to work as well. And we just started off by saying to each other, I have no idea what I'm doing. And she said to me, I have no idea what I'm doing. So, and that's how we went forward. And again, side note, try and be friends with these doctors. Yeah. Okay. I made some of the best and closest friends with these people, and work just became so much more easier. There is no hierarchy. Don't consider yourself superior because you're an RMO and them to be an inferior because they're an intern, and vice versa. It doesn't have to work. Yeah. You're both at the exact same level. An IMG would be an intern if they could do that for us. But just because we've done our internships overseas, that's why we go on to become RMOs and not interns. But in reality, we're at the exact same level they are. So, the respect goes both ways. If we are trying to be nice to them, then there's absolutely no reason for them to not be. And even if they're not being respectful to you, then you know that these people are horrible ones, and you just need to stay away.
Those.
Exactly. Yeah. And you'll get some of those, and you just stay away from them. Yeah. And you just try and maintain professionally what you need to do. You cover, you dot your I's and cross your T's, and no one's ever going to come back to you. Yeah. So I decided, I became really good friends with the people I worked with, because we were all sailing in the same boat of not knowing anything what we were doing. But at the end of the day, you've got to realize that we're all doctors, right? They haven't studied a human being with 3 hearts, and they haven't studied a human being who's got no brain. Granted, there's missing in a lot of them. So it's the exact same human anatomy, same physiology, just the way we practice things is a bit different. So go back to your basics. Always go back to your basics. You'll never forget what you've learned in your anatomies and physiologies. Just think of it at a basic level rather than trying to, like I said, think of fancy diagnoses. That's not your job. That's not even the registrar's job. That's the consultant's job to make fancy diagnoses. So just stick to your basics. Provide a good handover to whoever you need to talk to about when you see a patient, and that's how you get by. Registrars love it when you get to the point.
They do, don't they? And it's really the simple things. If you can do the simple things well, it really does get you ahead. So Faraz, just tell the people listening, what are some of the key things that you think attributed that you did to your career to date?
I just literally did what was asked of me. Just the basics of getting to work on time. And I didn't mind going to work a bit extra, a bit early, while the local graduates were sitting there crying that, we're coming half an hour early to do our lists. I was happy to do that in every rotation that I worked in, because I'm like, well, I don't want my registrar to feel disappointed. I want that extra point. If they're getting number 4s out of 5 on their assessments, I want my assessment to have a few 5s and maybe 1 or 2 4s. And that was what my aim was. And I'm like, okay, how can I today do the best job that I can do? Right, show up on time, do the things that is asked of you. Sometimes I stayed an hour extra, an hour and a half extra, just because I wanted to get the job done, because no one's going to help me out the next day. If I leave that job for tomorrow, I'll have to do tomorrow's jobs and today's jobs. So I decided, if it's going to take longer, so be it. I will put in that extra from my end. But see, when I say that, it's just something that this is my personal opinion, that this is what you should do. Not everybody can do that. Not everybody has the liberty to do that. A lot of people have families, kids to go back to.
They've got commitments.
They've got their own commitments.
But there's definitely another way to shine in, like, as in, if you can't stay back, and sometimes like that's not the answer, but there's other things that you can do to shine as a resident. Even though you said, like, I just did what was asked of me, as somebody who's worked with you and saw the impact that you had in the hospital, there was definitely more to your personality that shined, that you probably don't even realize, because you are very modest. I know you are, but there really is like something else that you provide. And this is why, like, I had to get you on another podcast, because we need to talk about how to be like the best resident and strategies to shine and to stand out as a good resident. So I just want to add my little 2 cents in this. Now, all the things that you hear Dr. Faraz talking about, and if you've listened to other podcasts that Sasha and I have presented on, you hear a lot of the things we talk about that makes a good IMG doctor. It isn't actually the medical knowledge, because medical knowledge is something you can study before you even get a job, while you got the job. And there's an actual answer to it. Like, you can look it up. There's Australian guidelines. You follow that. It's very black and white. The thing that's incredibly hard to teach is the soft skills. It's the personality. It's the proactive thinking. It's the initiative. It's the good communicator. So we actually call them soft skills, and they're incredibly difficult to teach. It's something that you acquire through life experience. Even local junior doctors who are brand new to working still struggle with these things, and they will definitely build it over time. Now, with IMGs, it's amplified more, because I guess when you're new, everything's just very difficult, but also I personally felt like people are looking at you under a magnifying glass. That's how I felt. So if you make one little mistake, it's going to be more noticeable than my local junior doctor colleague who makes the same mistake. And it's less forgiving as well. So it's very important that the things you want to work on, the things you want to be conscious of, are all those soft skills. Now, here is a little gift. I'm going to, along with Sasha, we're going to conduct a free workshop, and it will very likely be on our YouTube as a YouTube live, and it's going to be everything you need to know about soft skills. So the soft skills masterclass for IMG junior doctors and for local junior doctors who are new to the workforce. Really important. So keep an eye for that. It's going to be advertised. So if you're not already following us on social media, we have a Facebook and an Instagram. Please type in Code to Australia and click the follow button. And if you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube, please do, because if we do it on a YouTube live, you have to be a follower to actually attend the live masterclass. So please hit the subscribe button. I hope you found this incredibly useful. Dr. Faraz is one of the most amazing doctors, regardless an IMG. He's an amazing IMG doctor, but he's just an amazing doctor in general. And he's a good friend of mine. And I can tell you his journey is absolutely amazing. And I'm extremely proud of him. And I wanted you guys to hear it for yourselves so you can see that yes, there are all these negative stories out there, but there are also these amazing, amazing stories that I guess we just don't share. We get too busy and we don't share. But this should give you hope, and this should give you the message that there's a plan and you should always have a strategy to get ahead in this whole journey. I hope you found this extremely useful, and I hope to catch you in our masterclass.